Hello from Trent Valley Railway. In this video we're going to take a detailed look at testing the incline for the layout. I've been testing out the incline and decline starter set done by Woodland Scenics, and the starter set I have here is a 2% incline or decline, and I've bought 2 packets of these, and in each packet you get 8 foam inclines or declines, however you wish to use them. So the incline will be 2.5% for the majority, but Woodland Scenics don't do a 2.5% incline at the moment. They do a 2%, 3% or a 4% incline, and I'll have 2 running tracks from this end going upwards to the next level, and I'll have 2 running tracks from the opposite end down at the garage end of the layout as well, going upwards in the opposite direction. So effectively I've got 2 of these at this end. There's another then 2 that sit underneath the start of the incline as it then turns from the Woodland Scenics incline kit towards using the plywood that I previously used for the baseboard to then carry on up the gradient, which then starts to rise it to a 2.5% gradient rather than the 2% gradient in the kit. As we look down towards the garage end of the layout, you'll see then that I've used several pieces of wood and the other bits of the spare Woodland Scenics incline polystyrene parts to keep on the gradient going at 2.5%. So we'll talk about the gradient now that I've set up here, and we have the 2% incline, which is the Woodland Scenics kit, and then what we have after that, as I mentioned earlier, is then a 2.5% incline, which is the equivalent, as you can see on the spirit level, to 1.4 degrees. So after the 2%, it then increases to 2.5% to give a gradual gradient for the trains to go up the incline and up to the next level of the layout. And I've set all this out to get a rough idea of how the approach would look from the lower level of the layout as it increases up towards the next level, and to gauge how much spacing I have around these inclines that will be on the bottom level of the layout. Right, so it's now time to start testing some trains up the incline, and the first one that we'll video is the pendulum. I've built the incline as a test. It won't end up in this location, but for the purposes of understanding the calculations and how does it look, what do I need to do next, this is why the incline is how it is at the moment. So if you've watched the previous June layout update, you'll have noticed that there were 2 tracks running around the lower level of the layout, and the 2 tracks have now been cut off at this point here where the start of the incline is, so that the wooden sleepers are now the incline and then the concrete sleepers are the route around the lower level. So there's a single track running now from the very bottom section of the layout all the way then up to the next level up. At the start of the incline I've used a Woodland Scenics 2% foam riser, and this is to get a smooth transition between then the lower baseboard and then going up the incline. As it then goes up the incline, I've then used cut-offs from plywood sheets I've cut previously for the main boards, and then behind the start of the incline here is effectively the end of the single track on the lower level, which is where the Voyager is waiting to then go up the incline. Continuing on from the start of the incline, you can then see it climbs towards the back end of the garage and then passes over the lower level running line that I have where those IOA Network Rail wagons are. Under each of the plywood strips for the incline at the moment, there are then the PSE timber blocks, which I've cut with a slight angle on the top side, so it basically climbs upwards, and then it's got a flat bottom to then sit flat, nice and flush on the baseboard below. After the start of the incline, the gradient then slightly increases. As you can see, it then says 1.5 degrees, which 1.5 degrees in a percentage is around about 2.6%. So from the start at 2%, it then goes up to around about 2.5, 2.6% as it then climbs around to the next level. This is the first corner that the incline has to negotiate, and I've cut out the curve there with the plywood, hopefully to reuse later on. And as it then comes around, there's then a small section of straight where it continues to climb before then another curved section as it goes underneath the next layer up, so it's effectively in between then the lower level and the next layer above that. This view shows how the incline then carries on between the lower level and the next level up as it carries on climbing, and I've continued to prop up the incline using the PSE timber and using then the plywood strips on top of that. The incline is then near to approaching one lap of the layout, so as it comes around the corner there, it then comes back towards the garage door and then crosses over the removable section underneath on a very large section of plywood before it then comes around the corner to then head back up towards the other end of the garage. And as you can see down towards the bottom left hand corner, that's where the start of the incline is. So at this point it's done one lap of the layout. As the incline then comes past the garage door and then carries on towards near enough reaching the right level that it needs to be, you'll see that in the sections in the middle I've used the PSE timber, but then I've improvised with using some model railway boxes to then prop up the incline as it goes round. And then as it comes round, it then reaches another corner here, and as it then continues around the corner, it then levels off slightly on the gradient there before then joining up. Here we have a Direct Rail Services Class 68 with some IOA Network Rail wagons behind it, and we'll now take this for a test and show you some shots from around the incline. With the testing complete, it's now time to move on to building the incline, and here's a snapshot of what it will look like, and this will be detailed in a future video. Thanks for watching.